Not convinced it ain't no acting or accident what the track emits. You strapped with gas that you ain't even practiced with. The fact is.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Alright, so we got to talk about Smackdown, July 29th, 2022. Before I get into the review, I want to thank Society Reviews. I was on his The Barroom podcast. I was on there for like 2 hours, and I was late. I still was on it, so if you guys want to go over to his channel and hear me stream and talk about comic books and movies and stuff like that, feel free to do so. Now into the good wrestling stuff. So we're going to talk about a couple of notes. We got Cha. So WWE had tryouts in, I think, Nashville. They had tryouts. Interestingly enough, Big E and Bianca Belair was there. Nick Khan was also there. Triple H and Paul Heyman were there. There was a lot of people there doing some talent evaluation. I know Dwight Howard had a promo. He did a promo, and it was so cringe. I couldn't finish it. It was so cringe. Like, I'm one of those people that I'm kind of queasy when it comes to cringe. Like, sometimes something is so cringy, I gotta back out. Like, sometimes cringe is, you can laugh your way through it. But some cringe is like, it repels you. Like, I don't even want to see how that one's going to finish. That Dwight Howard promo was one of those. I think he got like 3 lines in, and I was like, and I backed out. I'm sorry, I can't give you a full accounting of the Dwight Howard promo, but it was too much cringe. I couldn't ingest it all at one time. And especially not in the time to do this video. So I couldn't do it. I did, however, listen to Paul Heyman. And Heyman is an absolute master. And if there was a school, like a legit wrestling school where you had to go to class, Heyman would be like master's level pro wrestling. And Carney, but pro wrestling. His whole thing where he tells these guys to sell me your name is absolutely powerful. That was some really powerful stuff. Heyman dropped a good bomb on those kids, man. Hopefully it wasn't pearls before swine, and they wasn't just focused on moves and being outlandish characters, and they were really trying to focus on what Paul was telling them. Make yourself memorable, make you stand out. Just like, I think Triple H said there was 100 there, and they whittled it down to 50. So they really put some effort into it. And of course, they signed a couple of people already. For some reason, they announced Valerie Loretta had signed at these tryouts. It's like she was signed a month ago. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, Big E was there. Interestingly enough, he made some interesting comments. And he said, when he was asked about coaching, he said, when I think about coaching, I think about guys like Norman Smiley and Matt Bloom or whatever. He says, I don't know how to teach people how to wrestle. He says, I'm an adequate worker at best. I know how to wrestle for me. But he wanted to be there because he understands being in the situation that the athletes are in. They're coming from another sport they've never wrestled before. And I said to myself, that is a very unique experience. And that's why Bianca Belair was there. Because you're talking about people who are very young. And he said he was 21 or 19 or something like that when he started in WWE. So, yeah, he has a different kind of experience. It's a different kind of mentorship where you're taking somebody who they didn't have a wrestling background and were kind of a fan as a kid, but not a super fan. They wanted to do something else. That's why they went to college to play football or something like that. And they need to understand how to make that crossover. And it made me think about Mark Henry. Excuse me. When Mark Henry was young, everyone was talking about how awful he was. I remember in 95 and seeing people talk about how terrible Mark Henry was, especially in 96, 97, 98. Hell, we were still talking about Mark Henry being the absolute shits in 2006, And you have to recognize there was nobody there for Mark, Mark Henry was a power lifter who was signed to a wrestling contract because he was a big wrestling fan. But for Christ's sake, there was nobody there to help him. Thank God WWE wrote out the contract and they didn't just fire him, which is what they would have done today because they don't seem to have the patience that they used to have. But Mark Henry was that guy. And they've evolved the company to the point where now you do have these successful crossover athletes, and they're going back to help others. And I think that's very good. I think that's pretty cool. All right. Triple H was asked about creative. He just gave the boilerplate Triple H response where I want to listen to everyone. I want to hear everything from talent, from everybody, fans, people in the cheap seats, the janitors. I want everybody's opinion. I'm like, Triple H, come on. Come on, bruh. I don't believe you. Until you fire the entire writing staff and hire new guys, which probably should be about 3 months, I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. The next note, Linda McMahon. She was approached at a nonprofit conference, and she was asked about Vince McMahon. And she really didn't say, she said she had no comment. No comment is a comment. She said she had no comment on Vince and the WWE. She's not here to talk about that. She was then pressed on the subject, and she says, well, I guess he's going to have to find out what to do with all of his free time. And it was kind of frigid. It was a real frigid response. I saw a lot of people attacking her because obviously they hate the McMahons in general. I don't understand what they wanted. What did they want Linda to say? What did you want Linda to do? Linda's been down this road with Vince before. Vince's penis has gotten him in some trouble. Vince's usage of money and, being flagrant with the legal system has gotten him into some trouble before. She was there for the Ring Boy scandal. She was there for a steroid trial. She was there for all of that stuff. The sexual harassment lawsuit with Sable, the stuff in Boca Raton. She was there for almost every Vince McMahon situation. She knows how to handle this stuff. I'm not sure what people wanted from Linda. It's like, did you want her to condemn Vince? Did you want her to stand up for Vince? And it seemed like no matter what the response was going to be, it was people were going to attack her. And the common response that I saw is that Linda is some kind of coward, that she should have just answered the question and talked about Vince. And it's like, what is she supposed to know about a situation that she is at the most a phone call away from? She's not in the midst of this one. She's not, standing by his side on this one. She has her own life at this point. We don't know when the last time they saw each other and, were in each other's company. And she probably called him on the phone to see, how he's doing or whatever. I would expect that kind of thing. But the frigid response that she gave, kind of expected. What more was there to do? And I don't know what more people wanted. It's like, that seems very weird to me. All right, let's get into Smackdown. Okay. This show, not good. Clearly, Smackdown is not good. And I didn't see any signs of improvement, to be quite honest. Let me guess, it's another Vince McMahon episode of SmackDown. Vince wrote this episode 2 weeks ago, and they just decided not to touch it and do anything, right? Yeah, sure, whatever. Let's talk about this thing. Drew McIntyre defeated Sheamus in the Donnybrook to become the number one contender for Clash at the Castle. There was some real Shakespeare in this match. Some DiCaprio, as Booker T calls it. And near the end, Sheamus is crawling with his nails into the ring towards the shillelagh, and he finally gets it in his hands, and he's like, "Oi, I got me shillelagh. I'm going to lay this joint right across the head of that Drew McIntyre. I'm going to kick." Oh, he got kicked in the head, claymored, and pinned. Fun match. It was really fun. They had some interesting weapons here. There was a bar with pictures, I guess, of Sheamus' great-grandpappy. I think that's what it's supposed to be. They had some old oak barrels, which I think is pretty unique. Like, you see those shits in, like, Final Fight or something like that. You wouldn't necessarily see them in a wrestling show. But it was very interesting. They did an interesting way of getting rid of Ridge Holland and Butch. Ridge Holland got suplexed through a table. Butch got beat with a stick or the shillelagh. So they did some interesting stuff. All right, after the match, Drew McIntyre cut a short promo who says that Atlanta is rocking and somebody's got to beat these part-time champions. And then he was attacked by Austin Theory from behind, or I'm sorry, just Theory. And Theory waylaid him with the briefcase. Later, Theory is walking around backstage. He is approached. Of course, he's about to ask the question of why he attacked Drew McIntyre. He said he's tired of being a punching bag and that he can't help it if all these people like Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Lashley and all these people who keep attacking him and distracting him, he can't help that all these people are jealous. But jealousy won't stop him. Brock Lesnar can't stop him. Roman Reigns can't stop him. Nobody can stop him from cashing in his money in the bank. And that in Cardiff, he's going to make Drew McIntyre his punching bag. This leads to Paul Heyman showing up at the end of that promo to put his arm around young Theory and cup him to his breast. Well, not quite. But he walked arm in arm with him, like he was giving him some life advice. This takes us to the end of the show where Paul Heyman is at the end, and of course he's just talking about Roman beating Brock. Brock comes out. He walked out again, that Brock Lesnar, that scamp. They need to do something about this guy. He keeps walking out. And he goes and he starts intimidating Paul Heyman. And he's menacing Paul. He's coming down on Paul like an eagle on a mouse. And Paul just absolutely, and then Austin Theory shows up and attacks Brock Lesnar with the briefcase from behind. Ended up not being a very good idea because Brock took that briefcase and then just absolutely beat him damn near to death with it. F5'd him a bunch of shit. He did him real bad. Theory then was outside the ring and he also got hit with a Claymore kick. So once again, he was made to look like a goof. Theory, he's getting the rub. You know, some people have noticed that he doesn't look ready to hang out with Brock and Roman and all. Like, clearly he's not. He's in that Randy Orton position where they see him, they see something in him, he's very good, but he hasn't been properly introduced into that realm. Like, if you look at Randy Orton, when they started pushing Randy, he was wrestling in main events. Like, he wrestled at the main event of SummerSlam 2003. He was in that Elimination Chamber match. You know, he had no business being in there, but he was in there. You know, so they just wanted to give him the rub, you know, get him pretty close. I mean, he won the title the very next year. So I'm guessing they really like Theory, but they want to get people used to him working with top guys. And you got to earn their respect. So, you know, Brock's going to beat you up, and Roman's going to have, you know, make you look bad, and Drew's going to make you look bad. And then over time, you will eventually start getting over on them. And you'll look stronger and you'll look more like you belong. But he's being hazed right now because they're just kicking this guy all over the fucking earth and making him look like a goddamn fool. You know, I'm talking consistently. But that's kind of how WWE does it anyway. You know, I don't know why. I don't know why this became the new booking decision, but it is what it is. Now, as far as the Drew McIntyre and Sheamus Donnybrook, it was fine. I think them starting the show with this match was a little weird because considering they literally didn't have anything else booked for this show. So it was like, okay, we're going to give you the match that you wanted early. It was like, okay, well, thanks for that. But ultimately, what's the rest of this hour and 30 minutes of this show? What are you going to put on? And their response was, fuck all nothing. Fuck all nothing. We ain't got shit else for you, baby. All we had was the Donnybrook match. Okay, so let's see. Baron Corbin was behind Pat McAfee all evening and heckling him. Well, not all evening, just for this particular segment. They're trying to do the rundown of the SummerSlam card, and Corbin is yelling at McAfee and throwing popcorn at him. And it's explained that because Baron Corbin has a ticket, McAfee can't hit him. So they're yelling back and forth, and it's taking forever to get through this SummerSlam card because Pat McAfee is yelling at Corbin, and Michael Cole has to do it by himself. Eventually, Pat McAfee and Corbin cross the barricade, and Corbin is, yelling at McAfee, and all the officials come down to separate them because, again, Corbin is a fan technically in this situation. Pat McAfee turns his back. Corbin kicks him in the balls from behind. And, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know why this is the thing we're doing. I'm okay with Pat McAfee. I see now that he has a WWE theme. They're not going to be doing Seven Nation Army again. I heard the theme. It's not awful, but you introduced him at the highest point with the whole Seven Nation Army thing, and you set the standard really high, and now you're yanking that thing away. It's inevitable, but why start it if you weren't going to maintain it? I mean, why? Why? Anyway, it's okay. Okay, so next. They showed a package for Rollins and Riddle, only to tell us that Riddle is injured in kayfabe. It's a kayfabe injury and being pulled from the show. So Rollins and Triple H, they've been shooting this angle on Twitter about, Rollins is frustrated that he's not going to be on the SummerSlam card, and Triple H is teasing that there might be a surprise opponent, and everybody thinks it's going to be Johnny Gargano. I'm telling you, I'm going to turn my room is going to look like Dave Meltzer's office if it's Johnny Gargano comes out of nowhere and beats Seth Rollins on SummerSlam. I'm going to tear this whole fucking room up. I'm going to tear this motherfucker up. I'm telling you. I promise. I may actually start talking positively about Natalia, because something got to change if Johnny Gargano steps from the ether and beats Roman Reigns. Now, I'm sorry, not Roman Reigns, but Seth Rollins. Now, I saw that they postponed the match because they probably want to have that match at Clash at the Castle. Considering SummerSlam is like 90% rematches, who gives a shit? And I was going to complain about that later, but SummerSlam is mostly rematches. And it's in late July instead of mid to late August where it should be. And it's on a Saturday and not on a Sunday. There's just so many things that make the SummerSlam feel weird. It feels too weird for you to want to cancel matches that we didn't put all this time and effort into. But at least they kayfabed it, and instead of just dropping the match, they had Riddle get taken out. So at least we could say he's selling the chest injury or whatever. All right, fine. But they're going to get Rollins on that card somehow. They better anyway. All right. Shotzi defeated Aaliyah with her Never Wake Up DDT, which is like a hooked leg DDT. It looks absolutely nasty. This match was awful, though. Aaliyah is not good. She's so plain. She's bland. Her strikes don't look like they hurt at all. I mean, Shotzi was trying to feed her. And Shotzi wasn't that great either, but Shotzi was trying to feed for Aaliyah, but it seems like Aaliyah is just walking through her matches. She doesn't look like she's actually in the moment of wrestling. She looks like she's trying to do something that she memorized, and it's not good. Maybe they just need to move her to being a manager or something. Not everybody needs to be a wrestler. She's been in NXT for a long time too. I mean, she was in NXT for a long time. So if she ain't got used to wrestling yet, you need to make her a valet. So Shotzi wins, even though Shotzi didn't get an entrance. This would be important because Shotzi is still laughing in the ring when Ronda Rousey came out. They did a segment where Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey are in the ring. Oh, they're not in the ring. They're doing a stare down backstage. They're doing a photo shoot. They're taking pictures of them being face to face. And Natalia interrupts by, of course, saying that she's the reason why Ronda is there, and Ronda's going to tap out Liv because she trained Ronda. And, you might as well give me the championship now, Liv, because I'm the reason you're the champion. And both of them were kind of like, shut up, Natty. Then Sonya Deville came out there. And Sonya said that she got attacked last week by Ronda Rousey. And it turns out she was trying to hold the ring hostage and during commercial break. And she was attacked by Ronda Rousey and taken down. And she, of course, says that Ronda can only do that because she was injured at the time. To which Ronda willing to prove that that's not the reason why she took her down. So Ronda goes to the ring, and Shotzi's still in the ring giggling, and she's getting her mad villain on. She's just in the ring laughing. I don't know why. Maybe it was something that she was talking about, and we didn't get that part. But as soon as Ronda gets in the ring, Shotzi puts on her Luna Vachon voice, her Rita Repulsa voice. Hey there, Ronda. And she just goes after Ronda, gets taken over in a judo throw. Ronda says, hello, Shotzi, and then lets her slink off without doing anything more to her. Somebody yells something at Ronda. I thought it was Shotzi. I don't know. It might have been a fan. But Ronda told him to shut up and that his mother failed him, I think, or her. Your mama failed you. And I was like, oh, so Ronda got over with everybody at that point. Everybody's like, oh, so Ronda she got mic work. She got verbal jabs now. Okay, look at you, Ronnie. Okay. You out here looking like one of the Road Warriors from the 80s with the little makeup you got on now. I see you. You got your nice little burn. I see it. Okay. If she needs to bring some of that every week. All right, so tag team match: Natalia and Sonya Deville versus Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey. Of course, Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey win. Liv Morgan was the babyface in peril. She took most of the beating in the match, which is the right thing to do, considering she's the smaller of the two. She's the least experienced of the two, and she's the one who doesn't have a legitimate fighting background. You had a lot of babyface reactions for Ronda in this match. The crowd was literally chanting for Ronda, which is like the first time ever in a long time. Sonya loses by submission. I'm telling you, Sonya should be doing so much more. It's so unfair that she's in this situation. It sucks, but it is what it is. Liv and Ronda have a stare down at the end of the episode, at the end of this segment, reiterating that they might have been partners tonight, even though they argued a little bit, letting people know that they're still going to be opponents. So, Natalia, Jesus. I like Sonya. I really do. I don't know what they're doing with Sonya. I don't know why they're doing that. Sonya should be in the mix. She should be in the mix. Oh, I forgot to mention, Lacey Evans was not medically cleared because she was supposed to wrestle Aaliyah. If she's really not medically cleared she literally doesn't do anything. So, all she does is walk out there and cut promos and talk about and call people fat, which is, the right thing to do. Call them fat. If they fat, call them fat. If I could tell the truth, baby. All right, the Street Profits were in the ring with Jeff Jarrett and the Usos to do the ref instructions. And all this basically just boiled down to the two teams bickering about what's a disqualification. If we break Tez's nose again, if we beat Angelo Dawkins with these belts, all this kind of stuff. The Street Profits retaliated, of course. And Jarrett, again, like a dad on a long drive to kids making too much noise in the back seat. And he's like, calm down, guys, calm down, settle down, settle down. He says he's not here to control anybody. He's here to let them run wild. All he's here to do is to count the 1, 2, 3. And then he says, it seems like y'all are, interested in continuing this. So if you would like to, and he steps back, he's kind of instigating for them to fight. And then they fight, of course. And in the midst of the fights, Jey Uso kicked Jeff Jarrett. He sold it very well. And the Usos, for some reason, were real apologetic. I know he's the referee and all, but they were real apologetic. And, Jarrett, they tried to comfort Jarrett, and he ends up shoving them before they got taken out by the Street Profits. So they're kind of, now they want to tease that Jarrett might actually screw the Usos because they kicked him. And you know what? I'm not a fan. I think this whole Jeff Jarrett thing was probably a bad idea. You could have got somebody who was much closer to the Usos and put the Street Profits in peril, because they have a cheating referee. So now we're in this position where it's like, okay, Jeff Jarrett is going to do what? He's just like every other referee. He's going to play the middle, but he has no connection to either team. So I don't know. And they didn't do a good job of building any connection either. But they did do a decent job of building that Jeff is going to have some kind of heat with the Usos. So at least that might play into the finish where they have the Usos lose because of that. Who knows? The new and vicious Viking Raiders defeated the New Day in a match I thought would never end, even though it probably wasn't that long to most people. It felt like it went on forever to me. Y'all know I hate the New Day. I'm ready to have one of those New Jack cheese grater matches, and do it to myself in the kitchen. Just rub my head against the sharp part of the cheese grater. I'm fucking tired of the goddamn New Day. I really am. But nobody else is apparently. Kofi botched a leaping hurricane to land on his shoulder. I hope it's not broken and he's not dead. I think he finished the match, so he's all right. The Viking Raiders win, of course. Afterwards, Xavier Woods is beat down, and they use their shields to Pillmanize his leg because they're new and vicious. If you didn't get it before, if you didn't understand when they called them the new vicious Viking Raiders, the old Viking Raiders who were cute and cuddly, they wouldn't have hit anybody in the leg with their shield. They wouldn't have done that. Jiminy Cricket, this show fucking sucked. This shit sucked. Maxine Dupree, they had a backstage segment. They didn't do anything in the ring this time. Well, they did the beachwear, the 2022 beachwear thing, but they did it backstage, and they did it via pictures, I think. So they've already abandoned ship on Max Dupree after all the effort and time they put in it, after the 2 long vignettes that they did, after weeks and weeks of build-up, after building a website for Maximum Male models. They seem to be giving up on it already. I noticed the story goes that Eli Drake / LA Knight / Max Dupree has some heat backstage, and they just decided to replace him with somebody else. I know that's the running story. It sucks, but you would think that they would pivot away from that pretty quickly, but whatever. We got no Gunther, no Shinsuke Nakamura. No touch on them at all. I agree with Drew McIntyre though. We got to get these belts off of part-time champions. How do we do that? I don't know. But let's get into the SummerSlam predictions, because that ought to be fun, right? SummerSlam ought to be fun. All right, SummerSlam. Let's start from the bottom. Judgment Day, Mysterios, no disqualification. All right, I'm going to say that the Judgment Day are going to win, finish off this feud with the Mysterios. Do I expect Dominic to turn? I expect the temptation to be there, but I expect Edge to return. I think Edge is going to come out at SummerSlam, blow the roof off the joint, and this is not my idea. Somebody else planted it in my head. They're probably going to have Finn Balor versus Edge in Cardiff in front of that huge crowd. It's like 70,000 people already. I know they're expecting more, but that's a huge crowd. And it'll be the biggest match of Finn Balor's career. And to do that in front of the big crowd is great. It's awesome. And you begin that push by having him win this match. Finn Balor has to be the one to get the pinfall and to celebrate and everything, and then Edge appears to set up the match in Cardiff. I like that idea. The Dominic Mysterio angle, that could be more of a Damian Priest angle, where they don't have to be in the same storyline. They could do individually different things. You could continue with Damian Priest trying to recruit Dominic Mysterio while Finn Balor handles the Edge situation. You can do both. You can do both. All right, next match. Lashley, Theory, United States Championship. This match, pretty straightforward. I think Lashley's going to win this match. I don't see why he wouldn't lose the U.S. title, why he would lose the U.S. title so quickly. I just don't know why you would do that. Doesn't seem to make much sense. And plus, theory is he's getting his his initiation into the main event spot where you get made to look silly for weeks and weeks and weeks before you really make it. It's unfortunate, but they do that. All right, Pat McAfee versus Baron Corbin. This is an interesting match because Pat McAfee could just win this match, and I wouldn't complain too much. But what do you do with Corbin if you beat him? I know has one of these kinds of characters that he can lose all the time and he'll be okay. It's kind of like The Miz in that way. At the same point, though, like, what is McAfee winning matches for? If he's not going to be moved up the card, instead he's just going to be the battling commentator, which is, I like. I don't have a problem with it. The thing is, a guy like Baron Corbin should be able to be the commentator. Speaking of which, this was very interesting. I like this. Baron Corbin said in an interview that there's no such thing as go away heat, that it's a myth. And, I've been considering that myself over the years, like X-Pac heat, go away heat. Is that stuff real, or is that made up by the smart audience? I'm not entirely sure. I've never heard of it. A term that was, X-Pac heat was birthed in the early 2000s, with the complete and utter failure of X Factor as a tag team, as a stable to get over. That's kind of when X-Pac heat was created. But I never heard of go away heat before that point. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look it up. But I thought it was hilarious because it pissed so many people off. And they're like, no, you have go away heat. Like he gives a shit. Like he cares. Anyway, if I was booking it, Pat McAfee would go down in a gallant fight in order to set up Corbin and keep him credible for somebody else. And plus, he did just lose that feud to Madcap Moss, so I would give him this as a bounce back. That's just me personally. Pat McAfee, he doesn't really lose anything by getting beaten because he's not a wrestler, right? I'll also turn this match into some kind of no disqualification match too, just personally, because I think that they kind of need it due to the level of attacking people from behind that they've been doing. All right, Street Profits versus the Usos. Special guest referee Jeff Jarrett. I think I teased this earlier where I talked about the Usos kicking Jeff Jarrett in the face. Even though it was portrayed as an accident, it was an interesting angle that now has privileged the Street Profits over the Usos. In which case, it's an odd situation, considering it gives the babyfaces numeric advantage, which you want the opposite, or at least, something in between the middle. Why would you want Jeff Jarrett to be a babyface and for him to have to count out other babyfaces or to have to cheat the heels in order to get the belts off of them? You really wouldn't want to do that. So I think WWE didn't really think this thing through, at least not as thoroughly as they want us to believe. I know the creative changed, but come on. I don't see anything positive coming out of this. I want the Street Profits to win just because I want them to be the ununified tag team champions, and building the shows around the Usos has been a slog because the Usos, for starters, are not on TV enough. Secondly, everything about them revolves around Roman Reigns so far. So they haven't done a good job of individualizing them anymore. They kind of just gone back to being the nameless, faceless Usos. Even though I love these guys, I don't know. I'm going to go with the Usos, though. I'm going to go with the Usos. All right, Ronda Rousey versus Liv Morgan, SmackDown Women's Championship. They put zero heat on this feud. They didn't even put it on low and let it slow cook. They did nothing to further this feud. They just did a couple of stare downs and a couple of promos about who wants it more, and that's pretty much it. It's been straightforward, a little too straightforward for me anyway. I'm going to go out on a limb, probably be wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think Ronda Rousey's going to win the title back. I think she's going to beat Liv Morgan. And this is going to be Liv Morgan's run. And people are going to be very disappointed, very upset. And I think she'll probably end up getting it back later. But I think it's about time for Charlotte to return. We need some new women in the mix. I know that it's probably better for Sonya Deville to wrestle Ronda Rousey for the belt, even though, it's more believable that she would beat Liv. And plus, Liv isn't even involved with a lot of these feuds. What you got with Ronda is that Ronda has been involved with Shotzi. She's been involved with Sonya. She's involved with Natty. And Liv is kind of like the new girl to the brand, and nobody's really doing or saying anything to her. They're kind of just pretending she doesn't exist at this point. It's just like, if you pretend that the Smackdown Women's title isn't there, then it's not there. And it's because she hasn't done anything to make it stand out yet. She doesn't pop when she's on the screen. She has some star potential, but she hasn't put it fully together yet. The crowd seems to like her, which is good enough for, the women's division. But they've done nothing to enhance this feud or to make this feud interesting, which tells me they're probably going to do a short title run, give the belt back to Ronda, and then get Ronda and Charlotte back in the ring. Now, could it be Naomi, Io Shirai, something like that? Yeah, that would be great. Would it be great if Liv beat Ronda Rousey? Sure. But I wonder, how would you book that when Liv Morgan's offense doesn't look the least bit credible? What is she going to do? Have a 15-minute match with Ronda Rousey? I don't know. Is it possible? I don't know. Is Liv Morgan or is Ronda, either one of them, established enough and veteran enough to lead the match and make it look good? That's going to be my question. Liv Morgan's probably been getting led around by people her whole career at this point. Is she good enough to carry a match with Ronda? Is Ronda good enough to carry a match? I don't know. We'll find out. It's either going to be a beautiful train wreck or an ugly everybody died, including the dogs and the goldfish. Something like that. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a bowling shoe ugly, as they say. All right, Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. I think this is pretty straightforward that Bianca Belair is going to win this match. Becky Lynch's story probably won't end until around WrestleMania, which is, from what I heard, some pretty well-known wrestling insiders. Billy Body, to be quite honest. He said that the Becky Lynch story is going to end at WrestleMania. And that very well may be true. I don't see the reason to take the title off of Bianca right now. The question is going to be, who is going to be her contenders? I guess Alexa Bliss is next. That's what it sounds like. And I know that Alexa Bliss has been very vocal about her character being in limbo for a while. I guess she feels that the company has kind of lost interest in doing anything with her. But that's kind of what happens when, you're on the roster for like 10 years straight, and constantly featured. She was constantly featured 2 years ago when she was during the pandemic, but she also had some injuries and all this other stuff that she had going on. So I know I'm interested in the Alexa Bliss Bianca Belair match. I'm also interested in Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch. But I don't think that the story with Becky Lynch is over yet. It doesn't seem to have turned the tale where she's gonna have to find or go on a spiritual journey in order to change herself, in order to make herself her perfect self and then come back better. I don't see us on that route yet. And that's what the good thing about when the Billy Body thing is. When I heard the synopsis of what they were supposed to do, before they decided to put the belt on Liv immediately, the plan was to have Becky lose to both champions in the same night. She was going to challenge Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title, lose, and then try to cash in on the SmackDown Women's Champion and lose that too. And that was going to be rock bottom. She's got to start all over again. And I was like, that's great. And in genuine storytelling, that is what will happen. You would attempt something attempt it again and fail, and how I have to come back from failure. That is a hero's journey. So, if the plan is to get her back to being the man, then sure, it's going to take a little bit while longer, but I'm okay with that. But I think in any event, she still can't win this match. So I'm going to go with Bianca Belair. All right, the main event, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, last man standing. Okay. There's a lot of ways we can go this. We could have Roman wins, Brock wins, or Theory wins. Now, the question I would have is, maybe they'll get it down to a 9 count, and then Theory will run to the ring and try to cash in his money in the bank and pin somebody. Because then at that point, the rules of the match would change. It would become a triple threat match, right? So if he can actually technically cash in the middle of the match during a 10 count and try to steal a 3 count. I'm guessing that they're not going to put the belt on Austin Theory. They're not going to do that. He's far too young. He's a little too green. You don't want to super push the guy, because then you're going to have people who are going to hate him just because, he got super pushed. So that means he's going to have to lose. He's going to cash in his briefcase and didn't win. And I think that's how we get out this match. They're not going to have Brock beat Roman or Roman beat Brock. They're going to have Austin Theory run to the ring, try to recreate the Seth Rollins heist of the century. It's that Roman's going to be smart. He's going to be hip to it. He's going to spear Austin Theory and pin him. That's going to be it's going to be a triple threat match. The rules have changed. Brock's going to lose his title match, not because he lost, but because Roman pinned Theory to get out of the match. And they will likely go back on that whole "this is our last match" thing, And I know that's probably going to piss a lot of people off. But why else would they be putting so much emphasis on that briefcase if it's not going to factor into the finish? And some telling me that it will factor into the finish. And that we're going to get Roman and Drew McIntyre in Cardiff. No Brock Lesnar, unless he's doing something else. It could be Brock Lesnar versus Theory in Cardiff, to be quite honest. Because if Brock can't get his match with Roman again, because that's part of the stipulation is this is the last time ever, then Brock wants to destroy Theory because he cost him his last time ever opportunity at Roman Reigns. So, that's not bad. It's actually not bad storytelling. I came up with it with a broken brain. My brain is damn near frozen from being up as long as I've been up. But I have zero excitement for SummerSlam. It's on a Saturday. It's still July. They haven't done a good job of building any heat on any of these feuds. I know that they've been mired since mid to late June in Vince McMahon stuff, but they've had multiple opportunities. They've had a Raw and they had a Smackdown. They could have done something to make this show more interesting. Maybe they considered taking Rollins and Riddle off the show to be the thing that's going to keep people interested. But to add the Mysterios and Jungle Boy and then take out Seth Rollins and Riddle seems very weird to me. Even though, the idea of them wrestling in Cardiff is fine. But I don't know. I'm just not that excited about SummerSlam this year. But I know once the show gets started, it'll probably be really good. So I'm going to hold out hope on that. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.